Multiple new trade deadline reports as the deadline is coming very soon. March 6th, the Montreal Canadiens are once again in the midst of everything, and a brand new report from RG.org that details the Robert Thomas sweepstakes indicates that Montreal is one of the teams very close to making a deal, but there is one very clear hang up, and if you take a look in the chat, you might understand what's going on. We got to dive into the newest Robert Thomas rumors, plus Elliot Friedman speaking on how he anticipates Montreal working at the deadline, but it's not just that, Jesse. We got to look towards this week as well, the Pacific road trip. We got some comments from Kirby Dach and even Nick Suzuki on Kirby about his great recent play, and as usual, we got a couple little short Habs prospect updates as some guys are doing even better than you might realize if you're just taking a look at the whole scope of the prospect system online. We're going to dive into all of this. Welcome in everyone to another Monday stream, and we're going to turn the music down and get going. So, Jesse, I mean, before we even get into anything, this Robert Thomas news was crazy. We're going to get into this in more depth a little bit later, but isn't it fun to see that, like, this isn't just a pipe dream for us? We're actually hearing, yeah, Montreal is right in there. They're working on these players that we have wanted to see come to Montreal for a while. It just tells me that, like, man, all this stuff coming out lately about how Kent Hughes is checking in here and there, it's getting me really, really excited.
Which is making this a pivotal week for Kent Hughes and the Montreal Canadiens. Are they going to get in on the Robert Thomas sweepstakes? Are they going to pay that price and get all the good things that come along with it? Are they going to wait? Right? Because obviously we know that there's a lot of key players that would be involved in that trade going the other way. It's a tough decision, Josh. We're going to be here to break it all down here today.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. And look, I mean, there's already people talking about moving for a big defenseman, and Connor Murphy got traded. We talked about him very recently, I think just yesterday, right? He got traded from Chicago to Edmonton today for a second-round pick. So there's some people saying, why didn't Montreal do that? Anyway, there's a whole lot of stuff to get into, but I do want to start by, again, saying hello to the channel members. We got Mark Orr, one of our high-tier members, Rocket Richard. Great to see you, Mark. We got Kevin from Nova Scotia. With shout out to everyone in chat who is here. Thank you all for tuning in. Caroline returning again, and so many names that I can't even name. Always good to see all of you in here. But I want to quickly start, Jesse, just by doing a little short prospect overview. Now, there's not a whole lot here to dissect, should I say, but I did want to highlight the fact that Yevgeny Volokhin, who a lot of you guys like, and type V in the chat if you like Yevgeny Volokhin. Hopefully we've sold you enough on him over the years here, but since we drafted him in 2023, he's spent some time in the MHL, KHL last year, but he just broke the record, Jesse, all time for shutouts in a season for an under 21 player in the VHL. He got his 7th. He's leading the VHL in save percentage at a .947. And, you know, I know we've talked about him a lot, and I know we got Jacob Fowler, but I feel like we say this a lot with our prospects, but are there even any other teams who have guys that are setting records like this night in, night out? And I don't know, I'm just excited for him, maybe not necessarily even just for Laval or whatever, but to see him at the rookie camp again this summer, because I think he has the potential at least to be one of these really improved prospects that could come out of nowhere.
Because again, the record that he broke was previously in place by Igor Shesterkin, one of the best goalies in the NHL. So again, Evgeny Volokhin just continues to play good hockey. And is it at the KHL level right now? No, it's at the VHL. He's still paying his dues. But the next big takeaway is if he's going to be able to play this good of hockey at the KHL level, that's when our level of excitement is really just going to take a major jump up, because it's hard to say, Josh, that Evgeny Volokhin just hasn't become better and better and better in front of our eyes. We've been keeping close attention because there was things to like about him from the beginning in the athleticism, and it was about kind of rounding in that technique, which is normal for young goalies. He's doing that, and now we're seeing the results that are coming in as part of that as well. We know we brought in a new goalie coach that is from Russia as well. You know, maybe part of Volokhin's part of that thought process going into this as well here. So everything that he's doing is just very impressive. And if he continues to do this, the questions are starting to going to become like, how quick can we get him to Laval? Some people are like, bring up, is there a way that we could get him into our system playing for the Laval Rocket as soon as next year, Josh? I'm not ready to rule that out as an impossibility.
No, yeah, like, the numbers speak for themselves. And while the VHL is not a great league, I mean, even some people now say the KHL is similar to the AHL. and he was decent actually in the KHL last year. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm crazy. I feel like he should be getting KHL reps. Like, the numbers in the VHL are ridiculous. He had a 900 save percentage with a really, really bad Sochi team last year. So, I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah, you really never know with guys like this. And, look, I'm not anticipating him to, break a new wall with the Habs development or whatever. But, again, the more prospects you have doing well, the better chances you have for maybe a trade, things like that down the line. So we're going to get into some more of that a little bit later, but I want to shout out Alex once again for re-upping your membership. Alex, shout out to you. Great to talk to you as always when we have our meetings, and hey, our channel member chats, I should say. We'll be doing that again soon. So thank you so much for re-upping and for being here for so long as well. Always great to see you. One other final little prospect update I wanted to mention. I mean, just a little one for a little John. LJ Mooney is now almost a point per game, Jesse. I know we've been keeping an eye. 13 points in his last 10 games. Not too much to say other than that. He's been dominant for the University of Minnesota, but for a guy that didn't have the strongest start to the year, the fact that he's also got a bit of a nasty streak to him at 35 PIMs this year, I don't know. I've just liked what I've seen from him, and I feel like it's been too long since we said his name, and I mean, just imagine if he gets to that point per game mark in the NCAA. That would be beyond impressive.
Yeah, considering that he's got a little bit of that physical aspect for being a little bit smaller. We saw that, right? He likes to mix it up. And again, a lot of heart, but a lot of skill to go around, which is very interesting. I'm so happy that we are talking about this player and that his play is really, again, getting us to mention him. Because again, even over that longer sample size, 28 points over 31 games.
Yeah.
And we knew it would just be like a point of time for LJ Mooney before he started going off. It was a little bit of a slower start, but he's a rookie, right? He's actually the top scoring rookie on his entire team right now. And seeing the way that he's playing, like some people are very, accurately bringing up that like this is a team that maybe we're missing size. Like, could LJ Mooney potentially become a trade prospect in the future, a trade chip, right? Because you feel like he's going to have another year in the NCAA after this, especially with his size, kind of like Lane Hutson, etc. Get those 2 years in the NCAA, but he's going to be ready before we know what after. And we're going to get into Cole Caufield. Like, he has a chance, very soon here, to hit those 50 goals. And we're seeing a guy like LJ Mooney, a little bit smaller, having a lot of success. Hutson, it's the same thing, right? But again, as this guy's getting better, it's obviously going to give Kent Hughes a lot of options here, because you have to feel like this is going to be a prospect that lots of teams are interested in. Is there a way where maybe we could kind of work it out? But you have to feel like LJ Mooney, ideally he's a top 6 player, right? And you want to have a lot of size around him to kind of complement him here. But again, just his character, there's a lot to like, that he just definitely fits the culture in Montreal.
Yeah, I agree. Like, just the way he plays, the feistiness, like a little bit of galley in his game. It's kind of fun to watch what he does. But I want to kind of go to how good of a value he is, right? And again, him and Volokhin, right? Because these two guys, Volokhin, a 5th round pick, 144th overall, Mooney, a 4th round pick, 113th. And we're talking about a guy breaking Igor Shesterkin's records in the VHL. And then LJ Mooney, a near point per game player as a 5'8", 18-year-old who was a 4th round pick. Like, to me, this kind of stuff is just, this is what you love to see. And it tells you that the scouting is doing some great things. A scouting team that has been more and more fleshed out as the years have gone on under this management regime. It's just getting better and better. So love LJ Mooney. And I see a lot of chats there. You see like a Theo Fleury? Not quite, but like, I can see it. I don't think he's actually got that much of a mean streak. Not quite a Theo Fleury, but I mean, LJ likes to lay the body. We've seen him like lay some big hits in big games, so really fun there. But let's move on to the current roster. I want to say hello to Daniel, and shout out to you, Alex, once again. Thank you. Always glad to be here in lives and in the chats. Fun times. And look, I know there's a lot of people that want to get into Robert Thomas, and that's coming very soon, but quickly for this week right now, I mean, one of the top things we've talked about lately is the forward lines, and it's one of the hottest topics other than trades, but those are kind of intertwined, right? Because we don't know what the top 6 is going to look like after we make trades, and well, with Line A gone, or like maybe we bring someone in, I don't know. But right now, Kirby Dach is sitting in on the top line, and he's doing a decent job. Of course, that incredible snipe last game, now up to 13 points, 8 goals in 25 games this year. That's about a goal every 3 games. Jesse, that's like a 25 goal pace-ish, even a bit higher retire, which is really good for Kirby. And he actually had some good stuff to say, like saying, he thinks himself and Slav are similar in terms of size. Slav's maybe a bit more of a shooter, but Kirby has just continued to work on that. I think when I'm shooting the puck, it creates more stuff for Nick and Cole. And then even Nick Suzuki said, look, he took a shorter vacation. The practice time has really been great for him. He's skating really well, making plays, holding on to pucks. Jesse, is this not exactly what we asked from anyone, not just like Kirby, but from anyone coming up to replace Juraj Slafkovsky on that top line? The things that Nick Suzuki's saying about Kirby, the things that Kirby is saying about his own game, to me speak to not only like how good of a fit he is there, but how much they understand the dynamics of that line, and why I'm actually pretty optimistic for this line going forward here.
And that's the reason why he got this promotion here, but we really can't take this as a given everything that Kirby Dach has been through in his career. So we're certainly going to take the time to really celebrate the fact that he's thriving right now on that first line and paying attention to those defensive details, winning puck battles, setting up your teammates, and lo and behold, you start getting some goals yourself. Because I love the aspect of Kirby Dach, like saying that he's looking to shoot a little bit more. And I think that that's going to be a great element to really round out and bring into his game as well here. So once what we're seeing for right now for Kirby Dach, it basically just comes down to if this guy's healthy, and what we're seeing from the points within his limited games that he's played, if this guy's healthy, he's a good player. Now we know it's all about just keeping him healthy. How do we keep him in the fold? Because that was a bad break that he had recently, right? It was very similar to Shea Weber's injury where it was the foot, but like very close to the ankle. It was a bad spot. And that's why he was out a little bit longer and why we were a little bit worried. Like, can he find it out? Because like Kirby Dach is extremely cognizant that this is a contract here. Yeah. He needs to get it right. He knows that it's a privilege just to play and to live that lifestyle. And he really wants to do everything he can to really hold on to it. And by all accounts, Josh, like, doesn't Kirby Dach just like feel like such a great fit in the locker room and just with this team? Do you feel like Kirby Dach, given what he's done so far this year, we know there's been the injuries, is Kent Hughes going to re-sign him for at least one more year after this year's done?
You know what? I've been thinking about that myself, and I was debating asking you the same thing. And I'm actually going to ask the chat right now. Type Y if you think Kent Hughes will extend Kirby Dach. Type N if you think that Kent Hughes will not extend Kirby Dach. I'd love to see some Ys and Ns. No, we're not talking about Tyler Myers. I'm sorry, Canucks Digest. I don't care that he doesn't want us. Look, Kirby, to me, Jesse, is a candidate right now for something pretty interesting. Because, again, he's filling in that role in that top line very well. The problem is, this is a small sample, even though we've gotten samples of it throughout each of the last, 3 years, when he's been healthy, 3-4 years. I think right now, it's a bit of a situation where Montreal, if they wanted to, if you're convinced by what he does in this last stretch of games, if you give him the reins here, with his injury history, you could get him at a discount. And there is inherent risk with that, right? There's inherent risk of signing a guy who just cannot stay healthy, right? Now we signed Guhle to that extension, but it was pretty low, like $5.5 million. I start to wonder, and with the rising cap as well, it might not hurt that much. What would you think about maybe a 3 to 5 year deal around $4 million to $6 million a year? I think there's risk with a guy with that injury history, but if you are convinced of just his game when he's healthy, having a guy doing what he's doing on that kind of contract could be interesting. I don't know what you think of that, but that's where my mind's been going as of late.
3 to 5 years would be too much risk for me. I think he'd be lucky to get 2 years, but I think that's kind of fair. That's what he'll probably end up getting is but if I'm Kent Hughes, I really want to give him a 1 year just to kind of see what he can do. But obviously you want to give him a little bit of good nature. I feel like 2 years is kind of that sweet spot where it's okay, giving you a little bit more than maybe, in all fairness is maybe deserved with just all the injuries here. But at the same time, you're also getting an opportunity to really capitalize on just the upside because there is that there, Josh. And you do bring it up. And the Habs have saved, quite a bit by getting these guys on longer term deals like Slafkovsky, Cole. But there was a proven track record behind that. I know we're going to get proven track record, I think is a very important theme as we get into some important trade topics here coming up here. But again, I feel like with Kirby Dach, that's kind of that sweet spot. I would love to keep him because he definitely needs to play as a winger. If we could keep him basically on a 2 year deal, still kind of very much approve it, and obviously type of deal there. I think that's where it kind of makes sense. You have to feel like Kirby, even though he could maybe thrive somewhere else where there isn't as much depth, the way that he just fits in this room, like I feel like Montreal is his best opportunity, even though there's so much competition. Like, does that kind of make sense? Or do you think he would maybe thrive elsewhere?
I mean, I think that if he's willing to, like, I think at this point he's accepted that he's probably not going to be like a line driver in the top 6. I think he still could be, but I think that having him as a complementary piece on a line like he's playing right now is probably where he's going to end up having a nice long career and with like really nice production and contribute a lot to winning. And I think there still is that ceiling that maybe he could hit. I just think it's becoming increasingly less likely as the years go on. So, but I completely agree with you. I think in Montreal, it's a great chance for him. And yeah, I think, you know, a longer extension, 4 or 5 years, is very risky. And I don't think that's something Kent Hughes would do. But, you know, the more I think about it, like, I don't know, maybe another 3x3, even something similar to what he signed before. Like, even that maybe is a little long, but you know, I don't know, right? Maybe it depends on the cap hit he's willing to accept, and, you know, the open market would come soon, because if he signs any more than, I think, 1 year, or maybe even just 1 year, he'd be a UFA after this next contract, right? Or maybe it's 1 or 2 years that he could sign. So there's a whole lot of other aspects to that. The chat does seem to say that most people say why, yes, we would extend Kirby, but there are a handful of no's. Zalassim saying not extend, more like small contract with performance bonus for a year, so very in line with what you were saying, Jesse. Definitely not an extension. It's just also, okay, it's saying I'm talking crazy. Maybe I just like Kirby. 2 by 3.25, 2 years, 3.5 mil max. Hello, Canadian dude and all. So yeah, I think people are open to it, but definitely on the shorter term side. And, you know, this does open the door too to like these other questions of who might come in, who's going to replace who, right? And Kirby, I know, Jesse, when we've talked about trade rumors before, he's been one of those names that have been like, you know, if we're not going to extend him, do we trade him, right? And we don't know right now what the plan is for Kent Hughes, Jeff Gorton, but the results have been pretty good with him on that first line since coming back. Of course, he had rust, and now he's getting there again. But right now at deadline, we're looking at, hey, who could we get? I mean, we've brought up so many different names, and we know Elliot Friedman recently said he thinks the Habs are going to be stealthy, which certainly has been the case, but we got a few more rumors lately. But on 32 Thoughts today, he said Montreal's another team. I don't see them being in the big rental game. I think Montreal's a gatherer. Give us somebody that's going to be around for a while, somebody that's going to be part of our group. So when we're talking about maybe replacing Kirby Dach on the top line or replacing Oliver Kapanen as a 2C, really any rentals, like even a guy like Trocheck, I don't know, this is maybe a topic for another day, but like he's on 1 year and a bit. It's sort of a rental. So like to me it indicates that like long contract or nothing, or we're just going to wait till the offseason. And Jesse, I know there's been Robert Thomas stuff coming out lately, but I like this idea, this thing that's being pushed right now, that we are not in a rush to go compete right now. And I think the Connor Murphy thing, this is just me rambling off the top of my head now, that kind of indicates it too. A 6'4" right D with good defensive upside got retained at 50% for a second round pick. And I think if Kent Hughes was in the mood to really go after a veteran rental player that makes the team better, why would we not have gone into bid on that? So right now, I actually think that like when we're talking about guys like Thomas, as we're going to get into in a second, it makes trades like this, even if not for this deadline, maybe for this offseason, even more likely than ever.
And it makes sense, you know. Kent Hughes, he wants to collect them all, really, and it's all about like benefiting both the short term and the long term, which again makes sense. And Friedman's comments are very much in line with that. And it would make us believe that, again, we want to benefit the team. It's not necessarily at which position. We just need to bring somebody in that can do that. And if, you know, we're going to get into Robert Thomas here in just a minute, but I do want to bring up, you know, there's been a certain Jason Robertson, like that name has kind of come up lately as we see Ryan O'Reilly, that he might not want to come to Canada. Trocheck, is he maybe trying to keep it close to New York and maybe Minnesota, that area? Does he want to stay in the U.S.? Thomas, we know that it's a big asking price, and we're not saying that Kent Hughes should absolutely not pay it. We're going to talk about that here in a second, but like if those options are out the table, again, like Kent Hughes, he surprised us so many times, so why not try to get ahead of this? Have a little bit of a thought exercise here in terms of like what wingers potentially could Kent Hughes be looking at. I think Jason Robertson, as we're hearing a lot of buzz about the center market and a lot of competition, this could potentially be an angle that Kent Hughes looks to go for if it's not at this trade deadline, then at the summer as well. Another name as well is Filip Forsberg that I want to mention as well here. I do believe like when Jason Robertson, I think in terms of a points perspective, would fit in really well on that top line. But there's almost a point, like if Jason Robertson's coming in, I'm putting Slav on that top line to provide that physicality. And then I'm actually having Robertson on the second line with Kappen and Demidov, just because like Robertson, I love the point production, but it's like I don't want to bring in purely like more of like an offensive type of guy with Caufield and Suzuki, right? So there's a little bit in terms of the productions there, but also the style is really important to get right in all of this as well. What's your thoughts on this as well, Josh?
I absolutely adore this. And again, I think this is a lot less likely for deadline. We've heard it's been dead silent in terms of the Jason Robertson rumors lately, because we've heard that he wants to, well, Dallas wants to keep him around because Dallas is one of the best teams in the league. And I think if they traded him now, I think it'd be kind of crazy. But, something this offseason could very well be the case. And again, he wants a lot of money, Jesse. Like, he wants, probably 10, $11 million. But again, if you're talking a guy that fits long-term with the team and you're looking into this offseason, he makes some sense. And I like the Forsberg point too. It's a name that you've brought up a number of times before. The minutes are really not there this year, which is interesting. 15.5, but still putting up 48 points in 59 games on a pretty poor Nashville team, though they've kind of improved, of course, as Stamkos has gotten better and O'Reilly's been great. This team is interesting. So there's a lot of different guys there, and you can see in the chat, a lot of people really like Jason Robertson and the idea of trading a Michael Hage. Some people in chat, someone there said Robertson could be the kind of guy you trade a Hage for. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would say that right away. I think that's a hard thing for me to say. We'll get into Hage in a second, but I love these ideas, right? Because, even if they're not deadline deals, I think when we're talking about Habs trades, deadline is deadline fine for this year, but we're not a team that's in a rush. And I think that's been something like, we're not an Edmonton Oilers where it feels like, oh my God, if we don't do something, we're in trouble, right? The Toronto Maple Leafs, it looks like they're past their window now and they're deciding, do we try to salvage it? And like Pittsburgh, right? There's a lot of teams out there that are feeling a lot of pressure to do one thing or another. And that's one thing that's not really there in Montreal. We can afford to wait until the offseason. And actually, before I get into the rest of this, I just want to shout out a super chat that we have not had time to read it, but I did see you, Braylon, so I hope you're still here. Shout out to you, Braylon, for the $2.79 super chat. By the way, super chats and channel members, of course, get priority when we read messages, so thank you so much. So a buddy of mine got us tickets to the March 10th game right on the glass. I don't know if it gets much better than that, Jesse, but I wanted to shout out Braylon, first of all, for supporting it. Not much better than right on the glass. Hey, what an incredible little gift there, and thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely, Braylon. Thank you so much for the support. Yeah, absolutely. And nothing better than being at I was saying that just at the last game, like how amazing, front row, center ice, right? Just no better, really rink in all of the NHL. So hope you have a great time. That sounds absolutely amazing for your buddy there.
Yeah, not to mention Habs versus Leafs. Just checked it. So at the Bell Center. I mean, late, this time of the year. And it's going to be right after the deadline. So shout out to you, Braylon. Thank you so much. And I see Roderick Murray talking about stuff. Yes, he's ready to, there's so many chats. I wish I could see. Zhuravsky isn't ready. There's conversations about Zhuravsky. I have a funny feeling his name might come up in a second too, because I know we've been discussing this internally, but it's time to get into the big main event of the day, because there's been a whole lot of Robert Thomas chatter, as we know, right? We've brought his name up dating back to the days that he wasn't even officially on the market, right? Like we've been talking about him for so long as that ideal target, right? That guy that Blues fans said absolutely no way we're ever trading him. Guess what? The Blues have said anyone 25 or older is on the table. And so this, courtesy of MarcoDemicoRG.org, it's linked down below. Sources indicate that the Canadiens are one of a handful of teams that are interested in acquiring Thomas from the Blues, and it wouldn't come cheap. The Blues reportedly covet Michael Hage a great deal and have shown a specific interest in Kaiden Guhle in previous discussions between the clubs. They're looking for the equivalent of 4 first-round picks mixed between roster players, picks, and elite NHL-ready prospects. Now, he does go on to say right here, the major holdup on Montreal's side is the inclusion of Hage, as trading Hage would be a very expensive proposition, even though Thomas has won at every level. And there's no doubt about that. Robert Thomas has been one of the best centers in the NHL over the past number of years. I do think that a lot of people are saying that this means it could be Hage and Guhle in a package, and that's probably what it is. I don't necessarily think so. I think there's ways you could bounce around this, but I'm going to ask this in the chat once again. Type Y if you would ever consider moving Hage in a Robert Thomas deal. Type N for if you would not consider moving Michael Hage in a Robert Thomas deal. And Jesse, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I know you have your thoughts on this. I think it's kind of evil and not very Kent Hughes or Habs-esque to not let Michael Hage play at least one game in the Bleu, Blanc, et Rouge before moving on from him, even if he didn't have this backstory, maybe I'd consider it. I cannot get behind it myself.
Yeah, for sure. And just considering that we have so many other good prospects, you have to feel that there would be a way to get this done without Hage. But you get, if you're Doug Armstrong, that this is kind of like the make or break of what you want. It really has a lot of elements in Robert Thomas in that two-way game to Michael Hage. So again, it's very interesting. Josh, I think we need to ask a poll question. Like for myself, Michael Hage, that's where I draw the line. I'm actually dying to hear from all of you. So get into this, answer this question here. I can't wait to hear from you guys. Would you trade Zborowski, David Reinbacher, and a first for Robert Thomas? Yes or no? I can't wait to hear where this comes out to and like how fans really feel about this. I have to feel like we have good prospects. There's a way to still give a lot of value while still keeping Hage. If we can do that, for me, that totally feels like a slam dunk in so many ways. The reason why we're even like, and I know that that's a big ask, right? Like we know that absolutely. The big thing here about Robert Thomas though, and it is less than the 4 first round that they're asking. We're not going to give him all that. I think that's my best offer that I'm willing to give for Robert Thomas here. But again, it's like you're getting a player in Robert Thomas that has a proven track record. And like fans of the show will know, like you're asking me about 2Cs coming in. My litmus test every time, do they have a proven track record or not? Because at this point of the rebuild, Kent Hughes can't afford to get it wrong. So for me, if it's coming in, I want to know that they've been able to do it in the past. And Robert Thomas, there's like an astronomical price tag. I feel like his production though this year should be factored into it slightly. Like the fact that his production isn't good this year, like can we factor this into if he was playing really good above a point per game, like yeah, you can kind of get the farm and the ranch and everything else. But it's like, okay, you know that Kent Hughes is going to be using that as leverage. That being said, it's the reason I'm still okay with this, even though his production is a little bit lower this year. Over his past 5 years, he has really averaged as a point per game player.
Yeah.
And again, there's the whole big thing. He's entering his prime as the Montreal Canadiens are coming into their prime as well. And I think there's an alignment there, which if you're Kent Hughes at key positions is very important, right? Like we know that there's players like, like bright futures here coming up ahead. And obviously it's all about the future, but it's not always about, there's a lot of changing in the NHL from year to year. And it's not always about just paying it forward. Okay, we'll get a good year next year. We're going to make a run for it, right? Like there's a lot to be said about getting the best out of players like Nick Suzuki, Cole Caufield. They don't come around all the time. We know Habs fans, like we were struggling for a long time before we got Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield. They came onto this team and now it's the big difference of why we're doing what we're doing. There's a strong argument made that you actually want to leverage the opportunity that Nick Suzuki and Cole Caufield are giving you by adding to that even more, not just kind of waiting and kind of kicking the can, just further down the road. I do believe that there is a sweet spot to be hit here. I feel like that's what Kent Hughes is exactly looking for to benefit the short term, give credence to the good players we've had already and how they've been able to benefit this organization, while at the same time, really paying to that long-term advantage that the Canadiens are strategically looking to position themselves in as one of the best young teams coming up in the future. Very interesting here, Josh, to see how this is all going to shake out here leading into this Friday trade deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm loving the way the chat is going right now. So, I mean, first of all, most people, when asked about Michael Hage, there were some yeses, mostly no's. I can see Frank Thibault, Derek Randell, so many wonderful people, wonderful faces that we see all the time around here. But then on your question, I really like this. Immediately you started to see, yes, that's better. And Alex saying, if that's the price for Thomas, I'm doing it in a heartbeat. Immediately followed by no, and no, and then no way. So one thing that I like to look at it, as Derek also says, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if Dach was a part of something big. You have to wonder, right? If we're talking first round equivalent players, Zborowski counts as that in my mind now. And actually Reinbacher might be a little lower than a 5th overall pick, but you never really know, right? Like, what is 4 first round picks equivalent? Like, is a really good prospect worth 2, right? Like, anyway, there's all this kind of stuff. But the poll right now, please go vote in the poll. This is not a yes or no. You can see it in your chat if you're just logged into YouTube. Anyone can go vote in this poll. It's 60-40, and I'm not going to say which side is winning right now, and now you guys can go look at it, but it's very close. And I find, Jesse, when polls like that are very close, it means that you're probably pretty close to fair value, right? And I think that, if we're talking, again, the ask of Zborowski, Reinbacher, and a first is a big ask. And because, you're giving up Reinbacher, who again, a big right shot D. There's been talk, hey, Logan Mayu's been better recently, but I don't know. You always get scared about these big right Ds when they go somewhere else. Alexander Zhuravsky, the pure skill is absolutely ridiculous, right? And there's these visions of him with Demidov, but we talked about this yesterday, and I think when it comes down to it, if you're talking about a guy like Robert Thomas, Alexander Zhuravsky, where does he fit? Right, in the long-term vision. Now, again, we can look at this roster, and I'm going to get to a super chat here in a second. Thank you very much, Colleen. You look at this roster, and you say, okay, a good amount of these players will not be here in 3 years, right? Like when Zhuravsky is actually going to be, like, a consistent guy in this lineup 2 to 3 years from now, a guy like Gallagher could be gone, Anderson could be gone, Danault could be gone, and all of a sudden you have more space. But Zhuravsky, to me, Jesse, is one of those guys, you see them all the time, that are a top 6 style player, but there might not be any room for him, right? So, and I like this chat from Caroline, which I'm going to bring up the super chat now. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Really did not have to do that. Thank you so much, Caroline. We keep Zhuravsky. What he is doing at 18 years old and being the best player on his team is too good. Plus, his GM will not stop him if he wants to come next season to Montreal. Yeah, after next year, it looks like he's coming to Montreal, Jesse. So, as good as he is, though, is there a spot on this roster for him? Like, at what line do we say, well, we just don't have the room to play all these guys? I think that's the biggest question that Kent and Jeff Gordon have to ask themselves, because as good as these guys look, as much first-line potential as we have, at the end of the day, you can only play a handful of guys, and we're actually seeing that right now in the middle of this logjam.
And it's all about finding the right fit. And again, with Demidov, you have to feel like there is some chemistry there with Zhuravsky. And I'm interested to see what it would potentially look like of them playing together. That being said, is you have to feel like they're both like puck possession type of guys. Like there might be an overlap. They might be better potentially separated, again, to allow that skill to naturally come out. You would have to feel like if you had a line of Demidov and Zhuravsky, you would definitely need a center there that's bringing a lot of physicality there to win those puck battles. So again, that's not like super obvious of finding that fit, but I think that that's really like the next biggest thing. And it's great having these options like Mooney's and like Pickford and Zhuravsky, but we're noticing that they're almost like carbon copies of a lot of players we have. Like Pickford, in a lot of ways, looks like a Hutson light. Zhuravsky looks like a Demidov light. Mooney looks like a Caufield light. And so again, like these are all beneficial in certain ways, but like if you didn't already have a Demidov or a Caufield or like a Hutson on your team, because there's only really so many of those places to go around. Now, that being said, Zhuravsky, as Caroline mentioned, like he's above Ivan Demidov's point production in the KHL. And we know he won Rookie of the Year. Like Zhuravsky's very good. I just feel like he would almost do a little bit better. Again, like so many of our prospects, they would shine so much more in other prospect pools where they immediately become like the default number one best prospect in the system here. So again, like this is something that you want to really evaluate. But if you're looking from a Doug Armstrong perspective, you're getting defense in Reinbacher. He's got some offensive boot on top of that. I think low-key is going to be very good.
Me too.
And then Zhuravsky, again, you're getting that offense with him. A first round pick to boot. I don't know. I feel like that, given Thomas's year, I feel like that's pretty good value in a lot of ways. We still get to really keep Hage here. How do we make this happen while still keeping Hage without trading the farm, Josh? If Kent Hughes is able to really figure out that type of situation, we're definitely going to need to tip our cap to him.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, right? Like, I mean, we see the potential in so many guys, but like the cutthroat decisions to make moves for like, because again, it's not just like trading for, some dude it's not like a Tanner Jeannot situation a couple of years ago. If we all remember how much Tampa paid for him, right? Like, this is not a desperation move. This is a guy in Robert Thomas, like the likes of which you just don't see come up in trade talks every day. Just like Noah Dobson, right? Like, is this not the same conversation we had then? Like, you don't trade a guy like Noah Dobson. This dude, Dobson, has completely revolutionized our defense right now. He's going to set a career high in goals. He's at 12 goals, 40 points. I think he's only behind, Makar in 5v5 points for defensemen? I think that's the right stat. I hope I'm not wrong. Someone feel free to correct me. But, like, there's so many crazy things right now going on with this roster. So many great moves. Like, now that one thankfully did cost Heineman and a couple first round picks, but one of those picks, like, they were higher than where we drafted Hage. So like, if we make the pick, does it like carry a different intrinsic value? Like, and again, I'm not saying that for Hage. I still don't want to move Hage for various reasons, right? Like, you set a precedent of being pretty cutthroat if you move him before he even plays a game. But anyway, that's something I'm still very hung up on, if you can't tell. But like a guy like Juraj is as good as he is. I don't know. I don't even know what to say because these kind of trades don't often come up. But at the end of the day, I'm going to end this poll, Jesse, and we can discuss the results. After our conversation just then, it actually skewed a little more towards no. Of 122 votes, 122 of you voted in that poll. Why don't we get some of you to like this stream? We're only at 48. Let me know if you're the 50th like. That's only 2 away, and I will shout you out in chat. But we'd love to hit 75. Can we hit 75? I didn't even ask for that today. Thank you so much for watching, by the way, for spending your time to be here with us. 66% of people wouldn't agree to your trade proposal, Jesse. 34% would. Me? I don't think I've given my take. I actually would. I think that's right on that line of like, if that's something they would accept, I might go for it. Just simply because, like you mentioned in yesterday's video, and if you haven't watched it, go check it out. Detroit is extremely aggressive on this as well. And maybe by the time we're done streaming, by the time you're watching this video, this trade's already done. But Utah and Detroit are very aggressive. Like, there are other guys. And again, if we can go get a guy like a Jason Robertson or a Filip Forsberg, yeah, we're going to end up looking back and say, well, thank God we didn't pay for Robert Thomas. But, I don't know. I think this is just like, at some point, you know, you can be patient all you want, but the right deal's not always going to fall into your lap. There's a reason Kent Hughes is sniffing around on Robert Thomas. There's a reason he's almost certainly given a trade proposal, and there's a reason why I think Montreal's going to be tied to his name until the day he is moved.
Because again, it just doesn't happen very often at all. This is a huge opportunity here for Kent Hughes. And there is a certain point where it is too much. And we know Kent Hughes is very true when it comes to that. But we have to think of like the last big name center that was on the market. And really like a Jack Eichel comes to mind really. And like that was like 5 years ago. It's very rare. And that was like, there was kind of like a falling out between them, right? And there was an injury. There's not even like that same type of situation. So for this actually to happen, it's extremely rare. Again, fitting exactly that perfect timeline. And again, like we love players like Xhekaj, and we need to be very pragmatic when we are thinking about this. Objectively speaking, though, is that we're still going to get like, there's probably another good 8 years out of hockey, you know, from Robert Thomas. It's not like you're just getting him from some short period of time, right? I feel like he would be able to affect this team in just huge ways. Like this doesn't happen all the time. Like if the Robert Thomas trade doesn't happen, if another center, you have to feel like almost certainly that they are shifting to more of like a winger focus. And I got a lot of faith in Kaiden. However, I do believe that that is a lot of pressure to kind of earmark him for that role, even if maybe we're improving our top 6 with other players. I like Kaiden. And again, I don't want to disregard what he's done this year. But again, what's my criteria for a 2C? It's the track record. I want to see it, and I want to see it in more this 1 year. I think Kaiden, when you're a defensive player, you got good habits. So yeah, it's probably pretty projectable. He's probably going to be doing this. He's going to get better as the years go on. But for such a key position, that there's still a little bit of a doubt, right, of whether he can come in next year. His point production can be better. Probably will, but it's not a shoo-in. It really isn't in any type of way here going forward. So it's going to be very interesting to get this right, because again, there's a price where it costs too much. But players like this truly do not come into the market that much. If we can make this happen, Josh, where it's like, I feel like we're not trading the farm. We put a Robert Thomas, where now our second line is Thomas. And then we have Demidov, right? And then, you know, like, and then Slafkovsky all like on like that second line. How does Robert Thomas, how does he affect Juraj Slafkovsky's game? How does he affect Ivan Demidov? Maybe allowing his true offensive nature to come out, knowing that we have, again, a centerman that just has that experience in holding it down defensively as well. It just seems like the best of both worlds in so many ways. You're not waiting too long to get out the best out of Demidov, which I want to know what his true potential is as soon as possible. I feel like the more you can surround him with truly all-star level players is where you really, truly unlock the genius of a player like Ivan Demidov.
I really like that take because, you know, to develop guys, like Slafkovsky's biggest leap in development came when he played on the first line, when he's given that opportunity. Like we saw him on that first line, completely changed how he played, completely changed how the team played. In the playoffs, same thing. Then, of course, the Olympics, where you see that same thing, right? So being surrounded by other good players, by other good talent, can speed up development. And right now, this line of Slafkovsky, Kaiden, and Demidov, as much as we love them, their 5-on-5 metrics are like bad, like straight up not good. Obviously, there's more to it than just, oh, what are the expected goals to, like, they're growing, they're learning to play with each other. Like that is very valuable. But you're right, when you can put a veteran guy right in there and just immediately, like a guy who's been a point per game producer with two guys that are still growing and learning, who have high-end skill, all of a sudden you can unlock them. It's like what we saw with Slav and Suzuki. It changed how they played, right? So I think there is a lot of merit to that versus, you know, a Michael Hage coming up. You're just thrusting another 21-year-old into, like, you know, so it's harder. It's harder to learn. It's harder to figure out where to be, what to do when you're constantly playing with these lines who are all like, yeah, when they grow together, that's very valuable. But sometimes thrusting an all-star who's already an all-star in there can make a big difference. And I want to go back to the chat because this is getting very interesting. I want to shout out Frank, by the way, for being the 50th like on this stream. Frank has been here, it feels like every single week, Frank. So shout out to you, Frank Thibault, for being here again and being the 50th like today. And we're up to 91 now. You guys smashed that. Why not get to 100? Less than 10 away. Thank you so much. And I do see this from Noxious Mark, who's also been a loyal viewer. Habs Digest, would you do this trade? Maybe this will be the last one here, because we're almost at 400 people watching. This is a ton of fun talking about the Habs trade deadline. Would you do this trade? Owen, Beck, 2 first-rounders, and 60% of Laine's contract for Robert Thomas? That's even less than what you asked for, Jesse. I think if that's the ask, 2 firsts, like, I mean, we're talking about trading away like Juraj or Hage or whatever already. 2 first-round picks, Owen, Beck, and you trade Laine while retaining 60% for Thomas? I don't know if the money actually works, or he's at 50%. So what, $4.5 million? I don't actually think the money works that way. I think you would, because I think then you're only retaining 4.35 million off of Laine's, and Robert Thomas would be 8.1, and we only have like $1.5 million. So unfortunately, I don't think that actually works with the cap space. But if it, like, again, if we're talking about first round talent, if we can offload Laine somewhere else to make room, and it's Owen, Beck, and 2 firsts, to me, that's that in a heartbeat, Jesse. But I think, again, St. Louis is going to hang up the phone unless we're willing to part with some premier, probably multiple premier level assets here.
For sure. And speaking of premier assets, they're very interested, apparently, as you mentioned, in Kaiden Guhle.
Yeah.
And very interested to see that other teams around the league look at this player and say, there's something about him.
Yep.
Like, in the right situation, Kaiden Guhle is a top pairing D-man on his natural side there. So again, going into the trade deadline, like, some interesting names have been brought up. Laine, Kirby Dach, you know, even again, Guhle is very interesting there as well. There's other ways to go about this as well. Like Dach, that's considered a first round level talent in a lot of ways. Obviously, you know, subjective in terms of how you want to approach that, but in terms of just objective with how he was drafted, that's what he is. So there are some different ways to go about this. Again, like, what does that look like? Is it maybe like a Zorowski, Reinbacher, Dach, you know, and again, there's some different ways, but I almost feel like some players off the roster would need to be included in this trade. And I think that that's actually probably for the benefit of the Montreal Canadiens in a lot of ways here as well, just given the situation. I feel like it's almost been building up to this, which is, again, getting me like really excited. The price is scaring me a little bit, but then I'm looking at just all the reasons why Kent Hughes would be motivated to make this trade. We got like too many players. This team is playing like much better than you would think they should. So giving them more talent, you would think you're just really raising the bar. If somebody shows you that they have a lot of potential, you probably want to put them in just as best of a position to succeed and as quick as possible, because timing is very important of this as well. If you're not trying to make your team that much better, other teams around you are going to be doing the same. And again, you never want to shape your game plan going into a game, into a trade deadline based off other teams. But it's a competitive sport, and we have to kind of, again, know what's going on there. And as mentioned, with the Detroit Red Wings being in on this, I have mentioned that could be even more of motivation for Kent Hughes here, where we could have a huge division get that much better. Like, do we really want to just have the Detroit Red Wings being better than us all the time? A Robert Thomas trade could get them into a position where in the same, not just this year, but going forward, where it's a little bit harder to knock them off of that pedestal. So when we're looking at trade prices and what we're willing to pay, best believe that that's going to be involved in that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I do like the point in chat that, like, Thomas is a first-line center with a great contract. Think of how much you would want in return if you were trading Suzuki. That's what St. Louis would want for Thomas. And hard to disagree. I mean, I think, yeah, Suzuki is a bit better than Robert Thomas, but not by a ton. And I think Thomas was in consideration for Four Nation stuff. I do think Suzuki is pretty clearly better at this point. I don't think anyone would really disagree. But St. Louis is a pretty bad situation right now, and they're very comparable last year. So, you know, if you put it in that perspective, it's like, yeah, maybe a lot. But again, like, there's no rush. I saw someone say in chat, like, hey, you know, we're top 5 in the league in scoring. Why do we need a trade? Well, it's not about needing. It's about a guy like this comes up and you have the assets to get him, why not go for it, right? Again, Kent has said, like, he's just waiting patiently, getting in the assets. But like Caroline says, the talent will come with Xhekaj and Joravsky. So much good stuff. Shout out to you, Trav, by the way, for being in the chat. I saw the all caps message. Thank you for showing up to the show. But so many things going on right now. I think we'll probably have to call it there, Jesse. We could go on about these rumors all day long. Thank you, by the way, for the 100 likes on this stream. Look, we're going to be having videos every single day. It's a bit of a weird West Coast road trip this week, but I don't know. Any final thoughts, Jesse, this week? I think other than a Line trade, I mean, even that, I guess, is not guaranteed. I would imagine it's going to happen if we can find a suitor, but like, I don't know. As the days go on, I start to think maybe we're not going to do something huge, but what I will say is I think Kent is going to do something that at the very least makes us think, okay, this improves the team long term, and I am all here for it.
Yeah, Ken keeps us on his toes. If he's showing us anything, is that we definitely just need to give them the benefit of the doubt heading in this team. They feel like they're very strategically thinking about it. It's about the long term, but I love how Jeff Gordon's bringing a little bit of that aggressive nature into the now, which I think with so much parity in the NHL is important. You need to make a play and really stick to it in order to separate instead of kind of being in that mushy middle, which is very important. Very important, obviously, to get that right. Huge shout out to all the people watching here today. We just really appreciate your support of the channel. We're thankful of the positive community that we've been able to develop here on YouTube. And you guys are such a big reason for that. So just give yourselves a big tap on the back. We truly appreciate it. We find it something special where we can share in something that we all love so much in hockey, but to be able to share in a positive way in a great community where we can hear opinions from other people, it's really just amazing. Shout out to also like all the other journalists, media covering the Montreal Canadiens, people that we're doing articles of. Check out their articles, follow them, support them. Just want to give a big shout out for everybody here supporting these Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, and thank you for choosing us when there's a whole lot of other people out there. And we love to bring the positivity and the energy. You know that every single day. All the latest news, nice, concise, chunky, to the point. Thank you so much for watching. I did want to acknowledge, I did see Mark Orr put a mock trade in here. Kaiden and Joravsky, Engstrom in a second-round pick. That I think I would also do. Just wanted to shout that. Maybe you guys in chat can discuss that amongst yourselves, but Mark has been such a loyal supporter for so long. Wanted to put that out there. Thank you for tuning in every single day. Cannot wait for this deadline. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you all in the next one.